Okay, so I've been a psychotherapist for nearly 2 decades now. So I've had a private practice talking to people about their lives and their feelings and their hopes and their blocks. And my understanding of what is important in terms of how we deal with humans and how we see ourselves has really changed over time. It's really, I would say, evolved. It started out as something quite academic. I had a Oxford University education, which was very heady. I was trained as a psychotherapist, so I brought to my practice all of these different lenses on how we study other humans and the problems of humans, and so it was all quite analytical. And over time, as I sat with more and more people, and as I went on my own adventures of the heart and the mind through different kinds of trainings within the healing arts, so I did, somatic training, which is body-based trauma experiencing. I trained in EMDR, which is another kind of trauma healing technique that uses bilateral stimulation. I trained in mindfulness. I trained in more out there stuff like EFT, which is emotional freedom technique. I trained with different kind of mystics, and I also went on this big journey as a psychonaut. So I took many psychedelics and did different plant medicine experiences and had all sorts of different kind of journeys of understanding. And over time, all of my journeys really ended up going to the same place, which was the heart. So sometimes it would be a part of my heart that I wasn't feeling in a certain way, or reconciling with the fact that I was feeling a certain way, and then the same applied to my clients. So there were areas where, the clients were like overly fixated on a part of their heart and then, not understanding or acknowledging another part of the heart. So one way of saying this is I discovered that the heart is actually a massive landscape. That's one thing. And it has very many different parts to it and very many different aspects to it. So I started to be more and more interested in the heart. And one thing about the heart is it's a mystery, is there is so much there that is both individual and collective to be tapped into. But what I really love about the heart is it's always authentic, whereas the mind is quite the cheat and quite the liar and is not really our friend. And so whether you're using your mind as a professional or using your mind on a personal level, it's just not a very good compass. It can be. There's that old expression that the mind is an excellent servant, but a terrible master. So yes, the mind can be an excellent servant, but the deepest kind of orienting principle I believe that we can know as humans is the landscape of our own heart. And once we actually get in touch with that awe-inspiring fact that we have these extraordinary hearts and they have these different sort of aspects of intelligence wired within them, then life becomes something quite different. So again, there are so many different parts of it. So to me, the waking up part of the heart is to do with desire, passion, joy, fun, embodiment, different kinds of ways of remembering that we're alive. And that's what my podcast, Sex, Psychics, and Psychedelics is about. It's actually about heart ignition. So that's just one aspect of the heart, right? So once we've remembered that we have a heart, maybe we remember that by falling in love, or maybe we remember that through adversity. We find out we have cancer, or maybe we remember we have a heart because we go on a fantastic trip and we suddenly feel really alive again. Or we see a healer and they switch on some lights for us. So we remember we're alive one way or another, hopefully. And then there's the living of the aliveness, and this also can be challenging, right? So it's not just waking up, it's then like, how do you operate optimally in this world when you are resensitized, when you are reconnected to your source, your inner child, your inner joy, your inner bliss? Then we have another set of problems because we've got some people who won't recognize that. We've got some relationships that we don't feel will necessarily see us or honor us in this new dimension that we might be in. And we've also got now a heightened sensitivity. So one aspect of awakening and waking up is feeling again, and we have been in a pretty numbed out world. And I feel like current events and the way the world is going is actually going in a quite it's quite a violent and jerky ride, and it is kind of default tearing at our sense of stability, and in some ways it is actually jerking us into aspects of unnumbing, and yet we're still pretty attached to numbing. And why wouldn't we be? That's fine. But I think acknowledging that waking up the heart and waking up the feeling body has a painful side is just honesty, is just an honest way. But I believe that it's preferable. And the reason I do is because there is access to more aliveness, but there's also more access to connection and deep relationality, which can be a kind of a whole life path if we wanted to, which really means how do we connect optimally with other humans, and how do we fortify those connections in minute-to-minute ways, when we're with our children in the kitchen, or a lover doing the teeth, or sitting with a aging or dying parent. There is or how are we acting with the person bagging our groceries at the grocery store. So there's a gazillion opportunities for relational evolution, and we do live in a world that is intrinsically relational, which is one of my big wake-ups of my now nearly 20 years as a helper, as a mental health helper, and as a psychotherapist. So, learning to be a good mental health worker, learning to be a carer, and I think that's, whether you're a mental health professional or not, the path of learning to care is actually and care properly and care increasingly is actually a very sort of ongoing learning curve, I think. For me, certainly it has been. I'm naturally a caring person, but to really care very well for other people is, and for yourself is, it has many aspects to it. So back to these different aspects of the heart, we've got the, what I'm calling the kind of the awakening and the aliveness aspect of the heart. That's the joy, the fun, the role of passion, the role of desire, this sort of the fire of the heart, right? And then we've got the mystery of the heart, which I call sort of the spirituality of the heart, and the fact that the heart is often seen as the gateway to the soul, like it's the soul in the body. So when we access our own heart, not only do we access this sort of authenticity and this truth, but we also access this kind of unfathomable dimensionality, I would say multidimensionality, because, what is the soul? And yet we talk about it and we have a sense of when we're connected to our soul, because we just feel in like profundity and depth, and it might be through that moment of meeting a soulmate, and you're like, we know we've known each other before, but how, maybe you believe in past lives, maybe you don't, but a soul connection has a particular resonance to it. Or it may be like, the unfathomable reason you're drawn to a very, very particular artist or period of history or movement. I don't know. So being in touch with your heart gets you in touch with the greater mystery, and gets you in touch with your soul, so it can get you in touch with your life path. The head will argue a million different ways about how you should be spending your time and how you should be doing it better. Because, again, the mind, your mind, unfortunately, is not faithful to you. It doesn't care about you. Your mind does not care about you. You can use your mind to help you once you care about yourself, but your mind doesn't care about you. Your heart cares about you. Whether you like it or not, your heart cares about you. So if your heart is wanting you to get together with someone you think you shouldn't be getting together with, it's not because your heart is betraying you. It's because there's something else that is wrong. Your heart wants what it wants. It perceives that person as having something you want. It doesn't mean that you should go to that person to get the thing that you want. What it means is you should understand and investigate, what is this pain in your heart? What is this reach in your heart? What is this desire in your heart? What is your heart wanting? It's wanting something it feels it needs to develop and grow. The heart has its own desire for its own particular kind of food. And if you don't acknowledge that in your heart, you will be in a fight with yourself. And it's a pretty heavy clash of inner systems. So we want the heart to be in liberation. Now, that doesn't mean that if, the heart wants vanilla ice cream every day, it should get vanilla ice cream every day, but it should be acknowledged that that's what it's wanting, and why is it wanting it, and what is that gap, and other ways to fill it. So there's this sort of awakening of awareness around your own depth when you access the heart. So that goes into sort of spirituality, soul, mystery. Then there's a more kind of, in a way, practical aspect to the heart, which is strength. There's this word courage, often sort of mythically associated with the lion, and it's this sort of lion-heartedness, courage. Could also say encouragement, same word, but cur is in there in both of those words, and cur means heart. Courage meaning the willingness and the strength to go out there, harness your own authenticity, and move out into the world in fearless representation of what you believe in. Again, we want to know what that is, and we don't want that what you believe in coming from the head, because it's just going to be a flimsy position. But what is interesting in terms of courage is what really connects with courage is vulnerability. So it sort of sounds like a paradox, but it may not be actually, which is to really be courageous. We also need to be, if we're talking about courage in a heartfelt sense, which is originally how it's meant, to be courageous, we need to be vulnerable. So there's a sort of, there's a nakedness to courage in a way. It's like saying, yes, I do believe in this, For me, that corresponds to, will it sound, naive to be talking about the heart, or overly innocent in today's, difficult and sophisticated and corrupt times. I feel like I need to embrace my own vulnerability and say, this really is what I care about, and I am going to encourage myself to be courageous enough to bring this forward, trusting that what is in my soul, what is in my heart, is there for a reason. And I can't plot out with my brain what that reason is, but I'm going to trust in the resonance of truth, the resonance of authenticity, the resonance of my deepest heart's desire, and trust that that resonance has its own story. So my job is just to bring it forwards, and your job is just to bring it forwards if you're interested in this. So those are, in some ways, sort of these personal parts of the heart. Of course, everything's connected, so nothing is just personal. But then we get to the more relational field aspect of the heart. So relationships, obviously, are absolutely intrinsic to the heart. The heart is a relational proposition. And the more relational qualities of the heart are empathy, the ability to put yourself in somebody's shoes, and compassion, which is about stretching your heart to wrap around and to infuse through whatever the given situation is. So these are tools for expansion of vision, and felt vision, not mind vision, but heart vision, which is a vision that comes through feeling. And then these are kind of more like actionable extensions of those visioning qualities, which are kindness and care, which are qualities we can actually kind of like add to every interaction, whether it's extra psychic, meaning relational with people on the field of the external plane, or intrapsychic, meaning how do we talk to ourselves? What words are we choosing when we talk to ourselves? what is the atmosphere of our inner life, and are we tending to it kindly? Are we growing on the plane of kindness and care in our relationship with ourselves, or are we beating ourselves up with judgments and assessments that are more from the head mind than the heart mind? Again, the heart cares about you, and the mind, the head mind, doesn't care. So that's the basic map of heart intelligence. Heart intelligence, as opposed to head intelligence, is both an evolved human intelligence and an evolving human intelligence. So when I'm talking about getting in touch with heart intelligence, it's not a one and done thing. It already exists and it's already very deep, but it's also something that evolves in conversation, in relationality, in practice. So the more I engage with my own heart in this reverential way, I now treat my own heart as my teacher. So I feel like I am in service not only to my heart, but to the greater heart that it represents. So to me, that goes to the sort of the archetypes of the divine feminine, the great mother, these great archetypes of universal love, which feel like such rich resources to tap into. You don't have to be religious. You don't have to believe in this goddess or that goddess. And you don't even have to believe in, feminine versus masculine or anything like that. In fact, the whole point about universal love is it's the most powerful force of love, and it doesn't give a fuck about any divisions or polarities or these kinds of particular definitions. So it's like a really, really rich resource that can be tapped into, that can blast through prejudice and circumstance, and is available for every human on the planet. So the heart has access to a great generosity that way, and that's actually something that I didn't mention should be on my map, is generosity. And generosity spans across vision and action, just like kindness. It can be a way of looking at things, and it can be an applied kind of science. Same as care. It can be a way of looking at things, and it can be applied in action. Okay, that's my heart rant for now. Thank you so much for listening. And if you don't already follow me on Instagram, I'm at the Banana Jane and have links to all my stuff there.